want you to imagine this. A newlywed bride dressed in her flowing white gown, and she suggests a playful game of hide and seek to liven up her wedding night. And the guests, full of holiday cheer, eagerly join in as she slips away to find the perfect hiding spot. Minutes pass, but then hours, and soon panic replaces laughter as the real search begins. But no matter how hard they look, the bride is nowhere to be found. What happened to the bride that night would haunt this house for generations. And even now, her presence lingers. But it's not what you think. What's going on, Midnight Mafia? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I just wanted to say I hope you all have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I truly do. And for the new people that came here, thank you so much for joining us. And I see we're only like 40 or 50 away from 10,000. That would be a Christmas gift, just saying. But seriously, guys, I appreciate you all. And without any further ado, as of now, it's time to slip into a mind that's not our own. Let's go. The grand ballroom was alive with music and laughter. Every corner of this gigantic manor glowing with the warmth of holiday cheer. And it was Christmas Eve, and the young couple, Lady Anne and Lord Hugh, had just exchanged vows in front of their closest family and friends. Now remember, this was in the 1800s, but this lavish celebration stretched late into the night, and it filled with, feasting, dancing, and these joyous moments. And then we have Anne, the bride, looking gorgeous in her ivory gown. She floated through the room like a ghost in winter itself. Her beauty was like the talk of the evening, her laughter a melody all on its own. And Hugh was just absolutely infatuated, and his gaze rarely strayed away from his beautiful bride. And then as the festivities kind of peaked, Anne then proposed a playful game of hide and seek. And her mischievous spirit was perfectly in tune with this holiday mood. And then her proposal was met with enthusiastic cheers, and soon the guests scattered through this vast manor, seeking hiding spots among the labyrinth hallways and the cavernous chambers. And Anne, emboldened by the thrill of this game, kissed Hugh right on the cheek and then darted away, her veil trailing behind her, sparkling in the candlelight. And she then ran through the dimly lit corridors, her giggling echoing faintly against the stone walls. And her eyes fell upon an ancient chest tucked into the shadow of a seldomly used room. She thought, okay, this is the perfect hiding spot. A chest large enough to accommodate her petite size, and its heavy wooden lid capable of concealing her entirely. With this little burst of laughter and excitement, Anne slipped inside, careful to pull the lid fully closed right over her. And then darkness enveloped her completely. But her heart was pounding with more of a thrill just to outwit her seekers. Remember, this is hide and seek, and some people take this game extremely seriously, yours included. But then what happened, well, you'll see. Minutes passed by, and then close to an hour, and the muffled sounds of the party began to fade as one by one the guests were found. But when Lord Hugh realized that Anne had not yet reappeared, he called out for her, his voice cutting through the waning laughter. "Anne, honey, the game is over." His tone, light and teasing at first, it grew strained as only silence answered him. The manor was then searched from top to bottom, the guests' jovial spirits now replaced with this creeping unease. And maybe the weirdest thing among all, against everybody shouting out for her name, "Anne, you've won, where are you?" Anne did not answer. So this frantic search at this point continued throughout the night. Every room was inspected, every door was flung open, and by dawn, the once celebratory atmosphere had turned into this heaviness with dread. Lord Hugh at this point, his face was pale and drawn, refused to give up, demanding that every inch of the property be searched again and again. Yet Anne was nowhere to be found. And sadly, weeks turned into months of searching a house, a manor, and the joy of the wedding was replaced by this horrible grief that settled over the manor like a shroud or a horrible dark cloud. Lord Hugh just didn't know what to do, and he became a shadow of himself. His once vivid eyes now dulled in this sleepless nights and endless questions that evaded him. How could she have vanished in the house without a trace? Well, now the years passed by, but the mystery endured. Lady Anne's disappearance became the subject of hushed whispers in the nearby village, a tale that was even shared around campfires during long winter nights. Some turned out to speculate that she must have run away, overcome with doubt about her new life and just being married. Others, though, whispered about a more sinister force, the kind that roamed old manors and fed on the unwary. But it turns out that none of those guesses were true. It wasn't until 50 years later until that grim answer was unearthed. And by this time, a new generation, of course, of the family had taken up the residence in the manor, and renovations were underway, and forgotten corners of the estate were being unearthed. And a workman that was currently working was clearing debris in the old west wing, and he stumbled upon this old, antiquated chest. Its once polished wood was now warped and faded. The brass hinges were coated in a thick layer of rust. As the lid was kind of forced open, the room was filled with a suffocating staleness, the air heavy with this decay. And inside it lay the skeletal remains of a young woman, her delicate bones draped in the remnants of a wedding gown. A veil that was white but now yellowed with age was still clung to her skull, and the fabric of her dress was brittle and discolored. Clutched in one bony hand was a faded sprig of mistletoe. And word of this discovery spreaded very quickly, and the villagers, once, filled with pity of the tragic tale of Lady Anne, now recoiled in horror to imagine that the young bride didn't run away, but she was locked inside of this chest, scratching at the wood as her air was dwindling. The thought was just unbearable, but the story didn't end there. In the decades now following this gruesome discovery, tales of strange occurrences began to surface, and guests of this manor reported faint, echoing giggles in the dead of night, the sound drifting through the halls like a cold breeze. And some even claimed to see a flicker of white fabric darting around the corners, always just a little bit out of their reach. Others felt an inexplicable chill when passing the room where Anne's remains were found, almost as if the air in that area itself mourned her fate. And the most chilling reports came from those bold enough to visit the chest themselves, which had been placed in a private room of the manor as a grim relic of the past. And a few claimed that when their ears got close enough and they just listened to hear this faint scratching noises that emanated from within, even though the chest was totally empty. One housemaid swore that she saw a pair of pale hands pulling the lid closed when she entered the room, though no one else was in the room. Lady Anne's death became more than just a tale of tragic loss. It became a haunting, a reminder of how joy can turn into despair in an instant, and how love, no matter how strong, can't always save us from the cruel twists of fate. And to this day, the manor remains a place of intrigue and unease. Tourists visit to see the chest and hear the ghostly stories that have grown around its history. Most come, trying to seek a thrill. Others to pay their respects to the bride who never got to dance her last dance. But for those who linger too long, there is an unshakable sense that Lady Anne is still there, in whatever realm she may be, waiting for somebody to finally find her before it's too late. This story truly gives me the chills, but I want to thank you guys for watching. And if you want to see a crazy story, and I mean this story is absolutely crazy, it involves a story that happened 3 days before Christmas, which is now, then you need to check this out right now. I'm telling you. But other than that, Thank you guys so much. I truly appreciate it, and I love you all, and I will see you next time. Cheers.